Hi guys, Louise here from Lucky Night Studio. Today I want to take you through how to style up the navigation on a Squarespace website. We're going to be looking at how to style it on hover and how to style it when a navigation item is selected. We'll be looking at adding different CSS animations. All of this will just be in CSS. Again, I'll add the blog post below so that you can copy and paste the code that I've used as well. But I'll take you through some different options and kind of how I go about these things with some examples as well. So I hope you enjoy it. Hi guys, so I've got a Squarespace template up and running, and we're going to go and start kind of adding some custom CSS. Again, this will only be using CSS, and I will include all the code in a blog post. This is just kind of to explain some of the options and kind of how I go about this. So you've got kind of understanding so that you kind of edit it in your branding and styles and how you're kind of wanting it. So by default, Squarespace doesn't have any styles attached to it, as in a hover style. It does have a selected style, which is this underline, but there isn't a hover style. So we're going to start off. To find the class names, you can go into right-clicking onto the anchor, onto the link, and selecting developer tools and inspect or inspector, depending on what browser you're using, and you can see it here. Or you can get a plugin that will kind of give you the class names. But in this example, you know, I know them, so I've got a list of them, and again, I'll add that in the blog post. So these are all going to be header navigation items, so header nav item, and so that's referring to this element, and inside that element there is an anchor tag, which is an A tag as well. So just to explain what I mean, if I say color red, it doesn't change the color. However, that's because the anchor tag is actually the text. So if I said header nav item A, I need to say important because otherwise it's being overwritten. Now it's changing the color for me. And again, just to show, this one won't do it because this is the container that the text is in. However, if I said the background is red, that is what this is kind of these class names are selecting. So what we want to start with is I want to just start with adding maybe a color change. So if it's a color change, we want it on the A tag. Color red, important again. So if you're wanting a color change, that would change it all the time. And if we wanted it just on hover, what we really want to do is we're going to add the hover on the main item. So you can add this selector to say hover. You can also do it for the background as well, which might be a nice style. And you might need to put some padding on it as well, 0.5 em, or you can do it in pixels. As you can see there, the issue here is then it moves around, which isn't very user friendly. So this kind of brings us on to a real main point I want to make with the CSS, is that because these classes styles are only being applied when the user's hovering over it. However, we actually want the padding on all the time so it doesn't jump around. So I'm going to move this padding into the header nav item by itself without the hover. And as you can see, it's updated the styles so they've got a bit more space, but now I don't have this jumping around, which is a lot nicer. The other thing that you'll notice is that it's quite quick, that the color change happens because there isn't any kind of transition. And again, the transition you want to put on the before state, because otherwise it's only being applied to on the hover state. So you want it on the just the main element by itself. So you can just say transition. I always like to do 0.5 seconds. And now it's just a little bit smoother. And again, just to show you, if I was to do it on the hover only, it doesn't work apart from when you're coming off it, but the first one, because the natural state doesn't have it. So let's do that. If I make it to 2 seconds, you'll see it a lot quicker, a lot better, sorry. And then if I was to do it here it does slowly do it, but not on that first hover. Okay, so anyway, so we've got kind of a background color. That was one of the ones I wanted to show you. You can also have it as well if you wanted it on selected, so that's often one that you'll see all the time. And just finding in my list. Oh, I don't think I actually have it in my list. Okay, but I think that there's a class name. Here we are. Header nav item active. So if I wanted this background color also when I have the item selected, so I'm currently on the projects page, what I could do is I could add this as well, and as you can see, it's now added the background color to it, as well as when it will be on hover. So that's a nice way as well. So this comma allows me to select multiple classes, but apply the same styles to them. If I wanted to as well, because as I said, by default it obviously has that underline. If you don't like that underline, it's actually added as a background image. So you just want to set the background image to none, and that should get rid of it. Oh, actually, no. Let's have a look. I think it's on this one, and oh, background. Actually, tell you what. Yeah, I think it is the background image. So I didn't. None. Oh no, maybe it is just the background. Let's have a look. Let's actually have a look in the code. So this is I'm trying to look for something that'll be background image. Yes, it says it's there as a background image. Maybe what I need then is important to override it. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so that line is set by a background image. So you're going to want to add this background image to it. Let me just add a little comment to hide the underline. Okay, so yeah, so if you kind of wanted this color to come through, again, you can change the time of the animation. You could also add maybe a border radius as well. So this will kind of add curved edges to the side, which kind of makes it a little bit softer, more like a button-like. Again, you could make them in line with your other buttons. I'm not sure what the padding is currently on it. It looks quite a lot. And then you could also do border solid 1 pixel black. Obviously it's not the same kind of color, but now you can see quite quickly how I'm suddenly making these navigation items maybe look like the button. And what I might just do, because there's quite a lot of padding, and again you can change the spacing between them. So margin, let's do margin left as 2 pixels. And it might be margin right. So we've got margin right, which I think is actually incorrect. I think it should be on the left, but I think we need to override it. So we want important. There we go. And as you can see, it kind of very smoothly went there because of the transition that is still applied on them, which actually brings us, so if I say 5, which brings me to like a really 10. Oh. Yeah, that's quite nice. Which brings me to a really nice point that we could do as well. We could change maybe the padding or the X of it as well on transition. So again, you've got to be careful when you're kind of moving it around with a hover effect, because it then means it could be an issue if your mouse is hovering over it, but then you move the element, then the mouse is no longer hovering over it, and it will kind of come out of the hover state. So I generally kind of don't recommend it. So that one's kind of a nice little introduction to maybe borders and border radiuses and colors and kind of some spacing as well. The other thing I wanted to show you was maybe like a nice underline effect, which I think looks really smart. So let me just get rid of a lot of these things. I'll keep the transition. I'll kind of remove a lot of this, to be honest. Okay, Yeah, I think actually I will make the transition a lot smaller though, maybe just 1 second. And what we're going to have, I like to have this active still on because I want to be able to see it. What we can do is I want to do an underline effect, but I want it to kind of slide in. I'm trying to think of a good way of doing this. What we could do, yeah, I think the way that I like to do these things is I like to generate in CSS new content. So with this header nav item, we're going to say before every element, not every one of them, but most elements, they have a before and after pseudo class is what they call it. So if we say before, and we're going to create content that's just going to be empty because we just want it to be a line. And we're gonna, so if we just make sure that this, actually it should be right, position absolute, and this just means it's going to stick to the element itself, and we're going to say left 0, bottom 0, and I want height, if we make it 2 pixels, and then width 100%, that will take up the whole element. And then if we say background, if we just do it a nice bright red again. Okie doke. And so as you can see, it's taken up that whole thing because I guess there's not a position relative on this one, which is just needed. This is to make sure that that position absolute sticks to it. Perfect. Now, as you can see, this is now a nice line underneath. Now, I know you're thinking why we've just removed that other line, but the reason is because I like to do something with it. Now, I'm going to show you how it is before. So we're going to say is we're going to transition. Actually, no, we're going to transform. And we're going to translate in the X direction by minus 100%. And what this should do is, if you can see, it's taken it all the way, it's taken 100% of the width all the way out. So basically it's kind of aligning it to the right now of our element, which I know doesn't look great, but what we're then going to do is we're going to say overflow hidden. Now this only works if you don't have drop downs, because otherwise that can be a bit tricky. And as you can see, it's now hidden because this extra bit of styling is actually overflowing out of the element itself. So it is hidden basically. So why would we do that? The answer is because then we can say on active and on the hover effect, we want to translate it by, oh, I need to add the before selector for this. So on the before and hover, actually we're going to say on hover and before, and on this and before. Now you can see the line. And so what would be the point of that? The reason is because then what we can do is we can say, again, give this the transition because it needs to be on the element itself. And now you can see it's got this really nice line, and you can have it from either side. So instead of minus 100%, I could have it coming from the other side, which then has this one kind of coming out nicely. I mean, as you saw there, just while it was animating through, what you could do if you wanted, just on the hover for like a kind of funky style, you could have it translate to minus 100, so you just kind of see it whiz across, which would be kind of nice. That's why, it's because it's being overridden down by the one below. So now you'll see it kind of zip across underneath. So it gives you a bit of an indicator that you've hovered over it, but it's not giving it to you. But as soon as you do click on the page, again, I need to save this and refresh the styles. You'll see that the actual page selector does have it. The main thing though is that sometimes, yeah, whether you want your hover state when you've got the page selected, which I don't really like. So the way that you do this is you can just say important, and that will kind of override it. So now this won't be overridden by any kind of hover states, but the other hover states still work. Okay, great. Yes, I think that was the main parts I kind of wanted to go through. However, what I also wanted to briefly talk about as well was just how much you really can do with just CSS. So I want to give an example. This is one of our clients' websites, More Heart Copy, a copywriter, and I just love the branding and the look of this. It's just so fun. Yeah, and so as you can see here, you can see that there's these icons and they spin up, and they really kind of give an indicator, as well as I can still see what page is selected, because it's actually got a different color on the text. So this one is a lot of code because we're adding in these icons, and we're adding in icons using this custom files, and they're just uploaded as a PNG, and then they're making sure that they're the right size. They're used as a background image, and then we're adding kind of like a spin to it, again still just with CSS. And what I've also done here to make it really fun, but also to make it flexible for Tilly so that she can add as many pages as she likes, is I've used, it's called like nth of type, which it kind of loops through the elements of a certain type so that it will keep repeating. So if I added more pages here, as you can see, the pattern is star, sun, heart, triangle, star, sun. If I carried on, it'd be heart, triangle. There's another example of this under FAQs, where I've restyled the colors in this FAQ. And again, we can add as many as we like because I've repeated these 3 colors and they just kind of keep repeating throughout. So I think it makes it really fun and just adds so much customization to it as well. I'll link the video where I actually talk through how I design this and all the CSS I use. Yeah, and it's a big playlist because obviously it's quite a custom site, which is quite nice, as well as like SVGs, and they blink, and I go through CSS there if that be useful. But what I wanted to show you as well is how you can really quickly get CSS animations. So this is using a website called, well, animate.style, and so this is a library of CSS classes that's called Animate CSS. And while you can download the library and it's made for developers to kind of import into your whole project, which you obviously can't do with a Squarespace site, it lets you kind of view these. So if we add like this Tada one, it lets you view them like the effects that you'd be able to add it. So I will link it. We actually just want to view the CSS file by itself. So don't worry, I know this looks terrifying to so many people, but we are just going to copy and paste. So I'm going to copy the Tada. It says copy the class name, and then I'm going to go to this file and I'm going to find, oh, I obviously did not copy the class name. I've copied it now this time, and I'm going to find that class name. So I've got the class name, and I'm going to copy this and just the code above it as well. Just this part of the keyframes, because it's called a keyframe animation in CSS. So let me just get rid of all of this for now because it'll be a bit hard to see it otherwise. So I've just copied it in, and rather than have this animate Tada, I am going to once again grab this header nav item, and I think I'll just do it on hover, and we should hopefully, let me just save it and give it a bit of a refresh because it might need that. Yeah, because I think it's trying to work out when I copy and paste. Right, yeah. So let's just have it on the item itself. So we're saying that the animation name is going to be this one, and then on hover, especially if I could spell. So I actually don't think we need it here. What I'm going to do instead is we're going to add animation, and I'm going to give it our name, which is Tada, isn't it? Yeah, Tada. So it's this keyframe's name here because that's the animation name. So Tada, and then we're going to say how long we want it for, and I think that's it. We can say infinite. Yeah, let's do it for infinite. So it should kind of keep doing it. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So maybe we need to have it as maybe 2 seconds. Yeah, and so as I'm hovering over it, so obviously I think this is probably like a maybe a bit much, but you could have this on your buttons as well. You know, you can put this like through so many things depending on the fun site. And as I said, you have here, I mean, I would really pay attention to the attention seekers one, because these ones, entrances and exits, are fine, but you're not often going to be working with the entrance and exits, and Squarespace has animation for those already, and so I kind of wouldn't want to add them in there. It could be quite difficult. Let's have a look. We've got, you know, they kind of like sliding entrances. You know, some of them are quite extreme. So I would, again, I'd probably like stick with these attention seekers ones. You know, we've got bounce, we've got kind of flashing, you know, so I could really just, yeah, play around with it really, and like a wobble one. But I think it's a real good start and an easy way to quickly add in CSS animations. So I know this is a bit longer, as I do love my animations. Yeah, again, everything will be linked into the blog post, and I hope this has helped. Thank you.